Hey, welcome back into the Sampleist, everybody. Great to have you here. My name is Greg Revell. Today we're exploring an incredible new collection from Fluffy Audio, Echoes of the Earth. This massive 62GB library brings together over 73,000 samples of traditional instruments from around the globe, capturing the essence of ancient musical cultures and offering a truly immersive sonic experience. With instruments from the Americas, Africa, the Middle East and more, Echoes of the Earth features 92 patches across 8 categories, perfect for everything from tribal rhythms to cinematic scores. The Aura and the Veil mics offer full control over instrument placement in your mix. And yes, you will need the full version of Kontakt 5.8.1 or above. It will not work with the free Kontakt player. A huge thank you to Fluffy Audio for providing us with the library for today's review, and as is always the case at the Sampleist, we pride ourselves on our editorial independence, meaning Fluffy Audio has had no involvement in the making of this video. Stick around as I dive into some of the standout instruments from Echoes of the Earth, and I'll even showcase a piece I've composed using these sounds. If you enjoy discovering new tools for your music, please like this video and subscribe now to stay up to date with all our latest reviews. Hey, let's dive in. Okay, so here we are. We have loaded up Echoes of the Earth into Kontakt. A quick tour of how it's all laid out. So your first thing you'll notice is that it is not accessible via the Libraries tab in Kontakt. You have to navigate to it using the Files folder. So here I am. I've now navigated down to where I've installed it underneath Fluffy Audio Echoes of the Earth, and I've now opened up the Instruments folder where we will find 8 different categories of instruments. Bass, idiophones. Now, an idiophone is a class of instruments that makes sound from the resonance of the body itself, rather than maybe a stretched membrane or indeed a vibrating string. Pads and soundscapes, percussion, there's reeds, strings and plucked, some vocal phrases, which we'll look at soon, and winds. And there is indeed a mountain of instruments for you to explore. Just about everything your mind can conjure, and even those that you've never heard of before from the world of Indigenous and world music. Moving over to the main panel. Down on the bottom panel, some familiar controls I'm sure will be intuitive to you. There is the articulation selection for the instrument, which can be controlled by key switches denoted in the top right-hand corner. Depending on the instrument that's loaded, the number of controls here will vary, but in this particular instance, you can control the speed, the attack, and the decay of the instrument. Dampen is a low-pass filter. There are 3 microphones, typically close, mid, and far. This panel here is for the Aura and the Veil. So the Aura is like an auxiliary microphone that has an extra sound to it, and the Veil is like a series of overlays on top of the actual the native instrument itself. So you might have some crystal bells as a shimmering layer on top, or there could be bell trees or piano resonances to add a little bit more depth and a little bit more color, if you will. And finally on the right, the velocity of the instrument, which means that you can also adjust here in this little panel the sensitivity of, or the actual velocity curve maybe, of your keyboard. And then most importantly, well, maybe arguably one of the most important things is the ability to control your reverb, which you can select from a range by clicking on the menu below. And finally, in the middle of the main panel is a big dial representing your mod wheel, which means you can click in the center and you're presented with a menu that allows you to assign one of the parameters you see in the below panel to that mod wheel. So you can select the Aura, the Veil, or both in fact, the attack, decay, speed, and dampen options to one of these options. Now I'm going to select the Aura and the Veil, and with the Aura I'm going to turn that up, and I'm going to randomly select piano resonances for the Veil. So this is what you get. Hear that shimmering pad sound over the top? That's the Aura and the Veil. So let's just turn them off momentarily, and just hearing the raw sound of the instrument. In this case, Ankklung, which are velocity sensitive too. So a soft strike of the key triggers the raw sound. A little harder gives you a tremolo or a roll. But if we include the aura, we get a little overlay of sound. So turning those options off for the moment, which I should hasten to add is controlled by the mod wheel. As you can see here, I've had it assigned so I can control that. But turning that off momentarily, just to show you the rest of the articulations of this particular instrument. So we had a look at the strokes, and here are the rolls. Let's turn that off. Really interesting. This one in this category is called a balafon. Now, these are all instruments that are new to me. I must confess, I know very little about these instruments. So it might be interesting just to actually do a quick Google search just to find out the construction of the original instruments themselves. That's really, really nice. Nice and clear. It's coming out in the left channel for me. So presumably balafon is a struck wooden instrument, somewhat like a marimba, of which there is indeed a marimba, which sounds like which is actually really nice because it's actually got something really interesting. So we have the border articulation. Sounds like it's got the like a rim shot when you play drums. So the stroke, but maybe striking the rim or the tile or the instrument itself with the mallet. There's a fingered option, which I assume means using the fingers to strike the marimba. But this one's really, really interesting too. They've got a bowed marimba. I had no idea you could bow a marimba. Bowed xylophone? Yeah, maybe, but marimba? Really nice, really warm. So these instruments are actually really, really well recorded and really well sampled. Okay, so let's move to the next category. Let's have a listen to the bass. Now, I'm going to choose this Guembri. Again, apologies if I've butchered the pronunciation, but it's a bass string instrument. Okay, very cool. The sustain, alternative sustain, sounds like it's got a harsher pluck. And the shake, you can hear obviously a tambourine-like shaker that might be played at the same time, if not maybe attached to the body of the instrument. That's called a guembri. We had a look at the idiophones first off. Let's move to the pads and soundscapes. So these are all about adding pseudo-natural and synthetic pad-like sounds interspersed with natural environment. So you can have things like the earthquake, and then there's sounds of birds and night creatures, if you like. So opening up the first one, Arctic Strings, is a string-like pad, like a string orchestra, if you will, with a slight Arctic wind feel to it, perhaps. Which I've actually got the veil turned on here. Now that's piano resonances. That's quite nice. There's birdie calls, which, as the name suggests, sounds like a whole host of birds. Lovely. The desert landscape. Well, I suppose it's like a desert. So this sort of thing I think you could very much imagine being like the sand-swept plains of the Sahara, perhaps. A lot of drone. I think the drones would be really, really good here. Again, I'm controlling the aura. I think that's going to be beautiful. I'm curious about distant voices. I don't recall playing with this one. And that natural swell's not me, by the way. That's actually the natural swell of the instrument itself. That's beautiful. Earthquake. Again, I'm really curious about some of these sounds because the names are really intriguing. I had no idea that's what an earthquake might have sounded like. And maybe there's rises, night creatures. Sounds like. Ooh, yeah. So, of course, in the deep of the South American jungle, that would be most appropriate. Okay, cool. This is really, really cool. I'm enjoying this. Let's have a look at some of the percussion. Now, percussion is probably at the heart, I suppose, of a lot of the of this library, I reckon. This genre of music to me invokes rhythms and tribal rhythms. Now, I'm going to load up these instruments for you with the caveat that I do not have a drumming bone in my body. So this will be fun, but let's have a listen to find out what flavor you get. So African percussion has a host of different instruments. I might just mute my microphone so you don't hear me smashing the keyboard. Nice. And then a little further up there. So if you've got your African rhythms happening, that sounds really quite cool. What I did with the composition that I'm going to show you shortly is I used a MIDI generator. I used another instrument, or another product in fact, and I borrowed their MIDI from their African rhythms and just used this instrument against that MIDI. That could be an easy way for you to develop rhythms if you don't have that natural intuition, which is definitely the case for me. There's the Arabic percussion, which is different again from the Middle East. This is a beautiful sound. quite extensively well sampled. That's quite a wide range you can see there. That's nearly, what's that, 8 octaves? So you got lots to choose from there. And again, using the different variations here, you can use the dampen, the low pass filters. You can transpose in this particular one. So this is interesting. And in fact, that's what I did in the composition, again, that I referred to earlier, that one of the instruments didn't actually quite fit the drone key that I chose, and I had to transpose it up a semitone. Really, really handy, and that's a lovely feature. That said, the transpose feature seems to be identical in principle to the native contact ability to. But they can make it just accessible here. The bull roarers are really interesting. What I assume is the swinging overhead of a piece of wood that's whirs in the wind. Very cool. And just to round out the description, you got Celtic percussion, there's a mouth harp, a Persian percussion, shaman percussion, talking drum, and there's toys. Again, I'm curious on the toys. Lots of different colors in there to play with, some really interesting rhythms to be made. Okay, moving along now. Again, I may have to whip through some of these. Harmonium, okay, under the reed section. I love harmonium. Beautiful droning instrument. There's the mod wheel. Can't resist while I'm here. Halusi. Now these are really interesting. Okay, very quickly. With the wind instruments, they've done a really good job. You can see here that this particular instrument, or reed instrument, to make a legato, but there is a drone option which in the yellow keys you can select the key of the drone. So let's say, for example, I select the D note. So now when I play this instrument, I get the resonant drone in D. Or maybe in F. I really like that. That's lovely. And just to round it out, there's a tremolo. Well done, guys. Lovely work. Other instruments include Pongi, Shruti box, and a Sipsi. Again, instruments I didn't even know existed, such as my ignorance on world instruments, but they sound fantastic. So let's head on over quickly to the strings and plucked. Let's have a look at Adungu. Strikes me as an Asian stringed instrument, perhaps. This one's really interesting. Bowed springs. So again, obviously resonant springs. Nice. There's Duta, Komuz, Rarab, Rabab, Tianu, Valiha, Zalam. Again, apologies if I butchered the pronunciations, but let's now move over to what I think is one of the highlights of the library, the vocal phrases. For me, this is probably the standout. I really love this. These are all different phrases that just seamlessly go together really, really well. And we have a range of phrases from with an Arabic voice, an Arabic male singer. There's Asia, which is the female singer, single male effects, female choir whispers, male choir whispers, and then we've got some really cool throat singing, that Nepalese throat where they can sing two notes at the same time. Sounds super cool. So let's load up a legato Arabic singer. So here's what it comes like. So that's me controlling the legato, so it's a singular note. And music from that part of the world obviously doesn't follow the traditional major minor keys that we would have here in the West, which makes it quite challenging. So I'm really glad that they've actually included a heap of pre-recorded phrases from the traditional singing voice that I think is just gives you that authenticity. ألا كل شيء ما خلا الله وكل نعيم وكل نعيم وكل قلوب وكل ملوك وكل ألا كل شيء ما فلا يدومون مالهم يبقى في الأرض ولا يليل يليل يليل. The thing to really note here is the extensive range of phrases you have to choose from here. Look at the bottom of your keyboard here. A full 1, 2, 3, 4 octaves, and every single semitone has a different phrase to it. So there's 12 notes to an octave. So you've got nearly 60 different phrases, if I'm not mistaken. So the challenge when you're working with phrases is that you have to somehow work out which phrases can be stitched together. The beautiful thing is these phrases have been worked out very well, such that it makes it almost that you can put any random 2 or 3 together, and to at least my untrained ear that's not familiar with that part of the world, they sound really, really cool. Some more phrases. This is the phrases B, and this is free. That's a beautiful voice, and I just love it. There is heaps. Have a look at all the Arabic phrases here. C, while I'm here, I have to show you. Playing 2 together. So there's 2 notes that I just randomly selected, and they seem to harmonize really, really well. Gorgeous. Great work, guys. This is really, really good. Now, again, I'd love to take you through all of them, but we're going to be here all day and all night. So they've recorded a lot of these, and they've noted here in the name of the phrase, the BPM, the rhythm at which they were recorded. They do time stretch, and they time stretch really well. But like all phrases of any instrument, it's best to create phrases in a time signature that's roughly equivalent to the speed at which it was recorded. So you don't want to put your DAW up to, you wouldn't want to stretch this down to 30 beats per minute. It'll sound really wobbly. 90, 100, 110, maybe 70, 60, either way will get you there at the end of the day. There's even an Arabic word legato. So again, whatever notes I play, the singer will sing those notes, but they're different syllables. That's cool. That's really good. This one's Asia effects. So different female vocalizations. Let's have a listen to that same singer in E minor at 60 beats per minute. Whoop, that's a bit too fast. So let's wind this down. So I'm going to wind down the speed of my project, which is currently set to 120. Let's take it down to 60. So our singer can sing without sounding like a field mouse. That's better. So that was a perfect example that if you don't have your DAW tempo set at the right setting relative to the speed at which it was recorded, it'll sound strange. Beautiful. And again, lots of different phrases to choose from. There's a full 1, 2, 3, 4 octaves, 4 12s, 48 different phrases. So much to choose from. Now, I may have to turn back the tempo. So it is. So I'm going to go back, minimize, return to 120, because I think that's why she sounds a little laboured. That's a little better. And quickly to round it out, single male vocal effects. Interesting. Okay, and so we can't claim that there's not enough to choose from. This is almost enough to be a independent vocal library in its own right, I reckon. Female choir whispers. Cool. I said so much, and we haven't even got to the throat singing. So throat singing, you'll be familiar with this Tibetan, Nepalese technique of creating two notes at the same time. So these are the throat singing alternative sustains. I will say one comment, though, that I've noticed about the phrases. You can't control, unfortunately, the volume or the dynamics, if you will. But with that minor oversight, hopefully they can do something about that in the future. So there's the singular note. The phrases, again, there is plenty of them. And the note the singer is singing is controlled by the key switches. You can see the ones in red. Listen to that. Insane control. Very cool. So these singers are just awesomely talented. Brilliant stuff. Phew, I tell you what, that's exhausting just listening to that. I could sit there for hours and play with those vocal phrases, not to mention all the other different categories. So this is like a one-stop shop for all things world instruments. Now it's time to listen to them in action. So I'm now going to show you a short composition I wrote using Echoes of the Earth, and on the other side of that, we'll wrap up today's video.
حبيتك وسط القلب نطلب من رب الشفاء يا ليل يا ليلي 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 يا ليلي
So over to my final thoughts. If Fluffy Audio's intention was to create a one-stop shop for the world's indigenous instruments, then they have succeeded with flying colours. The sheer volume of instruments and of the sampled content here is immense. The instruments are well recorded, well designed and laid out and very easy to use. The intuitive interface makes navigation easy and the load times for the patches are exceptionally quick, so hats off to the team for keeping the memory footprint small. But the standout for me are the vocal phrases. World-class singers lending their talents to provide an extraordinarily rich and deep catalogue of phrases that are well designed and allow you to seamlessly stitch them together. And that's not to mention the huge range of timbres and different vocal techniques from all four corners of the globe. In creating a composition with Echoes of the Earth, I found that the sounds inspired ideas quickly, and with just a handful of patches, beautiful rhythms and melodies were ready to jump out at me. But Echoes of the Earth doesn't have to be used exclusively within a world music context. There are instruments here that will be a game composer's dream for adventure titles, for example. And a little world music colour wouldn't go astray in a more conventional Western composition. Heck, I even heard a hip-hop groove pop out at me at times. Echoes of the Earth is currently available at Fluffy Audio for $207.90. Go and check it out. And that's a wrap for today's video. Once again, my thanks to the Fluffy Audio team for providing us with Echoes of the Earth, and to you for making it this far with me. I'm ever so grateful for your time. On your way out the door, be sure to smash the like button, subscribe and then ring the bell so you'll be on top of all the latest releases from the world of virtual instruments. And with that, this is Greg signing off from another Sampleist presentation and urging you as always to go out there and find your sound and find your soul. I hope you'll join me on the next one.